Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I'm going to work on a reel that Dan sent in. Dan sent me a 450 SS Penn. It's got two problems. One of them is that the trip mechanism is removed, and he tells me that this reel will only go like this and then it's going to bump. Well, I'm suspecting that the little lever or something may have caused some damage underneath the rotor. And we're going to show you how to reset those springs in the rotor. Not an easy task. I'll probably stumble a little bit, but we'll show you how to do that. And we'll also kind of figure out what the heck is going on here. So we're going to start by removing the exterior pieces. And while I do that, I want to stop for a moment and thank our first responders, essential personnel, and the village of support people that make these folks their hometown heroes, whether you're in the food industry, education, transportation, and services. I guess we can throw in Amazon and post office and Uber and DoorDash, and everybody who's been chipping in to do their part to kind of help us stay safe during the pandemic. Well, it's all appreciated. Thank you very much. And a special shout out to our uniformed services, all of the people in fire, rescue, EMT, all of the folks that are in hospital and medical fields, and everybody involved in vaccine distribution, pharmacists, and so on. Thank you for all you do. Okay, well, I like to work to replace that bail issue by taking the rotor off. It's always just that much easier for me to do. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to start by removing the side plate. And I also wanted to take this side plate off because I want to see what's going on that's causing that to stop. Well, so one of the problems we have here is that this crosswind gear isn't working. You can notice that the block down here isn't moving. So there's an issue here, and it goes beyond just having a trip lever that's broken. Fortunately, if there is an issue here, the parts are generally available for this reel, surprisingly, and if need be, we can get hopefully we can get a replacement part. But that usually means that there's a broken tooth on the oscillation gear or the crosswind gear. I guess we'll find out right away what that's all about when we remove this. So we take the block off by removing the screws, the tie-down bar, the axle shaft comes out. Yeah, I'm not wearing a glove today. I'm working on a bail. There shouldn't be any grease there. And I see immediately what the issue is with this. All right, I want to take this side off because I want to make sure that we don't have a screw in here. Sometimes we do. Nope, we don't. Put that right back on. That crosswind gear is not on the stud. The crosswind block is not on the stud of the crosswind gear. So we need to just kind of work the main gear out of there. Not easy. It's something that, for whatever reason, is restricting it. So just go put the handle back on, give you extra leverage here to do that. And just pull it out like that. All right. So you can see we don't have, the crosswind block is not on the stud. And hopefully we'll take a look. Hopefully we didn't damage anything with that coming off. Now how that came off is beyond me, but it's off. Now I'm just checking the teeth to make sure that there's no damage. We don't have any broken teeth there. And of course it's imperative that you look at the other side of this when that's going on. So we're okay there. I'm taking all of these pieces and parts and I'm putting them into a parts tray. That parts tray is simply the bottom end of a jug, plastic jug. And we're going to do a general cleanup and tune-up on this, but the purpose of this video was really all about the dealing with this bail trip issue. And we'll get that resolved, and then I'll clean it up, and we will finish the video with a full reassembly of that. But right now we're just going to work on the bail trip issue first. We're going to take both sides of this off. You don't actually, we can leave this on and take this off. there's a spring on the left-hand side. We can leave that intact. Just pull the bail screw off of the arm. Oh, that spring isn't on anyway, so I guess we should have taken that off anyway. All right, we can do that. I'm going to pull the washer off. So my guess is something failed and this whole thing came apart. And I guess that's all right. Let's go ahead and take this side off, because this is the side that has the trip mechanism that, oh, that's the side that has the trip mechanism. Let's just get this out of the way. There should be a spring on this side, and there is. You can see the spring coming out. All right, we're going to put that in, this in, that. So I'm kind of doing this haphazardly because I know the reel. But if you don't know the reel, the first thing I would suggest is that you go ahead and find out a little bit more about this reel. And what you want to find out is, how does this reel come apart? How does it go together, come apart, right? And the first part to that is go get the schematic for the reel. The schematic will help you to identify the pieces and parts and what you can expect in this reel. Once you get the schematic, you'll be able to see a breakdown of those parts and the order in the assembly. When you start to work on this reel, first thing you should do is to take pictures. And you should take pictures, that way you know the orientation of the pieces and parts as you took them off, and they will help you when you go to reinstall. All right, I always get this wrong the first time, and I probably should have put the gotten taking pictures, and maybe I will. There's a slot in this case here. That's where the slot, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a tag end of the spring here that's flat. That's got to ride in that slot. And this is always fun to load this spring. So now you've got a hook on this side that you've got to run with the angular slot on this end of the trip mechanism. So this is going to be the side that stays inside the rotor. This is going to be the side that goes out to get the ramp. Well, the problem almost always universally is that you have to clear this corner with this little spring, because if you try to rotate it, it's going to bump up against the wall there. So let's see if we can give it a go here. Okay, so once you have that spring loaded on here, you need to complete the rotation, and then you need to load your trip lever part 2 onto the stud, and then rotate this little arm a little bit more, like that, holding this whole thing because things tend to shoot, and then grab the hold down and bring that over. Kind of a balancing act here in 10 different directions, right? Long screw goes in the bottom here, holds that spring assembly in place. This is not for the weak of hearted or those that fear springs. I will show you what happens once we get this tied down. So this is holding the bottom spring assembly in. This one's holding the top assembly in. Remember, each one mounts over a stud. What will happen now is the bail is going to move this swing arm over like this, and you can notice that the trip lever will come out. Then the ramp is going to hit that trip lever when it bumps this way, and it's going to release this to cause the bail arm to snap. So that's how this moves and the like. And you can see that on the opposite side of the swing arm here. This is the swing arm that's going to be moving that lever. So the swing arm is going to mounts like this, And you'll see as you go to open the bail, it pushes that lever out, and when it springs, it's going to fire it. It's going to allow it to come back. Well, how's it going to come back? It's going to come back with the other side, so let's go over there and set that spring. Let's take care of business on this side first. There's a screw that needs to go back in here. A very interesting setup. It's always one that you just think there could be a better way. Alright, that should return up top. You'll see we're flush. As that opens up, kicks the lever down. Hits the bump, releases the assembly. Okay, I'm going to grab this side. Then there's a spring here. We'll show you how that spring works. So once it trips that lever, then this spring, which is positioned in the case with a down-angled hook on this end and an up-angled hook on this end, it goes into a pinhole in the case. It wraps and comes up. We're going to be pushing down. We're going to take this bail arm here. We're going to set the spring in the hole of the bail arm, like that. Oops. Like that. And then to load that bail arm, you're simply going to push down and over to compress it. You can see how I've compressed it. Well, I'm going to do that with the, let's do that first. Let's grab the big spring. Let's push that over, get it roughly centered, start to screw. This takes hand strength. That's the only issue with this. The other side's got the issues with that coiling spring. This one I have an issue with the hand strength. Always something. Okay, I'm going to get started. Now I'm going to put the case back on so I can still have the ability to kind of line that in here. And I'll tighten that screw up. We'll tighten up the other side and we'll see if that makes anything work differently. It should. So the one side is the firing pin, the other side is the actual bail spring. So if you like videos like this, if you like to see how they come together and how you problem solve some things with the mechanics of a fishing reel, then I'd ask you to subscribe. If you do subscribe, please hit the notification button. That way you'll see the videos I'm posting, and you can make a determination which ones you want to go watch. I work on all kinds of fishing reels. Work on spinning like this one. I work on ocean reels. I work on freshwater reels. I just want to make sure that we're good here. We are. So let's bring this back up. Bring this over. This one has got to tightened up here. All right, we'll tighten this down and we'll see how we did. So you have a trap that comes up. So this is the ramp that's going to push it. Let's go ahead and put this on. You need the key for this. That key is what holds the spool. I'll go ahead and put the nut on. And when we rotate, it should snap now. There you go. So up, over, snap, and we've fixed that issue. So that's kind of a funky issue with these. Like I mentioned, it's not for the weak of heart, but that's how you do the bail spring. So let's just kind of repeat. It's on this side, which is the travel arm. We've removed the bail because that just gets in the way. The spring is on this side, the trip lever is on this side. You have the arm below, which is the trip lever arm. In order for that to fire, you have to put the tag arm of the spring into the little slot in the case. You have to rotate away from that to set the top end up on the inside piece of this. That's joined with the extension, which is going to trip off of this arm. That extension is wrapped around the stud here. When you get that balancing act, well, you got to slide this retention side plate on, and just be gentle as you do it. The one screw on the bottom here is going to hold the spring assembly below, which is that trip lever. The one above it is going to do the trip arm, and then if you've done it right, when you turn it, it's going to hit the trip ramp, and it's going to trip. Now this is a wire, and it's bent terribly out of shape. Something happened with this reel that we don't know. The best way to do this is to find a hard surface. Now you won't see this because I'm going to do this against the side of my bench. But if you apply pressure here, you're going to kind of round out the bail on the other side. So let's go do that. So you can see right away how it's starting to form better. And all I did was press against the side of the bench, just applying pressure. You can see how it gives, and eventually you will round that into shape. There we go. Now we got the flip again. So it was that simple. All right, for those of you that want to stay around, we're going to show you how to do the rest of this. We'll eliminate that other issue we have with the crosswind block. I'm going to put a glove on to do the balance of this. So we're going to show you how to finish this reel off if you're servicing it. And those of you that just wanted to see how that bail lever assembly gets going, that's how you do that one. Okay, I'm back. So just a note, I did take the rotor off. I removed the bearing. I oiled the bearing. I put some light oil around the rest. The only thing I didn't do while I'm saying this is put a little bit of oil on it at the reverse dog. So we're going to go back to put that rotor back on again. I took that rotor off so that I could get to the pinion gear and the bearing. That's an important part of the service. And now we'll go ahead and put that nut back on. I want to make sure that we secure the rotor. We'll give it a turn ahead of time. We've been turning it to make sure that the bail trips, but we haven't turned to make sure that we have good performance with the bearings and everything. And now that they're oiled and greased, it's a good time to do that. All right, that's tight. Give it a spin. Spins beautifully. I've cleaned up the main gear in the absence of time there, just to save a little bit. I know that the theme of this was really about how to set that trip lever spring, and that consumed a lot of time. So we do know that we had an issue below with the crosswind block not being properly mounted onto the oscillation gear. We took care of that. So we're just greasing up the parts. We've greased up the pinion gear. And go ahead, put the crosswind gear in. There's a little bit of cleaning that needs to be done there. That was why this thing was stopping at 180 degrees. That stud was banging into the crosswind block. Not a problem, all fixed. I did check the crosswind block and everything checks out fine. Quick little cleaning of the teeth on that crosswind block. Just get the old grease out of that. And I like to brush the remains onto a paper towel. I don't like to get it onto my workbench where it may come in contact with the next reel I'm working on, and if there's any dirt or junk that gets knocked out of there, you don't want it transferring over to a different reel. This crosswind or oscillation gear gets grease on everything. The back rides against the case, the front rides with that crosswind block, and the teeth ride with this well greased back drive of the main gear. That gets set in. We're almost back kind of where we started, right? We got our axle shaft. We'll just wipe that down. Oops, forgot to put the crosswind block in. Let's take that main gear off for a moment. So you already learned how to take that main gear out. If it's stuck in that back bearing, just put the handle back on it. Let's go ahead and lather this one up. Put that in. Now we can put the main gear back in. Press that in. Take our, put a little bit of grease onto that shaft there. Don't put too much on. It's going to get wiped off if you put too much on when it goes through the pinion gear. It's a pretty tight tolerance there. You want to get the little tie down. And let's line that up. The 2 tie down screws. And one of our viewers just told me go to Snap-on and get a little screw starter. I'm going to go look into that. Everybody feels my pain when I try to put these small screws in and see them bounce around the case every now and then. You know, sometimes you just accept what you're dealt. And small screws, well, they win more often than not. Just want to line the screw holes up on that side. Now I'm just dipping in a little bit of real grease. That tends to act as a kind of a very temporary glue to hold that in place while I get it started. And we're going to call this one a success. I've seen folks put grease onto the face of this. There's no real need or reason to. If you want to, that's fine. There's a little oil felt inside this little retention ring here. Go ahead and get oil on that. Get oil on the back of the bearing. Put the side case back on. There's 3 side plate screws. They're all the same, so it doesn't matter what order they came or went in. Let's go put those back in. And we'll put the handle on. We'll give it a crank. Now the spool was not included. I'm going to have to get in touch with Dan, find out. I'm sure, I hope he has this spool. But in the meantime, not sure why that was left off, but you know, with all the pieces and parts that came here. For some reason, that spool didn't show up, but that's okay. I'm not going fishing with this reel. I'm fixing the bail issue, and I'm fixing the stop issue. Well, I have no doubt that we fixed both. Go ahead and put this back on. We even rounded the bail. All right, we should not have an issue with the stops now, and we don't. We have a full and complete revolution. We have an anti-reverse. When you flip the switch, you'll go into an override. Okay, the big test. Let's go flip that bail. Trip that bail, flip that bail, trip that bail, flip that bail, trip that bail. And remember, where you're flipping, you got to clear that ramp, so sometimes it's a little harder than others. All right, the only thing I didn't do is put a little bit of oil onto the line guide. Now that's not a line roller in there, doesn't matter, but you can oil that, oil the seams of the arms. We know we've had this completely apart, so that's not the issue. But we're back in business. This one's got a second chance. And just make sure that Dan has the spool, and we'll be on our way. So I hope you've enjoyed that video. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Again, if you're a first responder or essential personnel, any of the branches that make up our local hometown heroes, thank you. And please, everybody, stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.